I'd like to call this meeting of the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency to order. To my right is Regent Tim Clare, and to my left is Councilwoman Tammy Ward. I'm Mayor Leary and Gaylor Baird, and we're here as the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency. This is a public meeting subject to the Open Meetings Act, and a copy of which is posted in the back of the chamber. The clerk will read each item on our agenda today, and then staff will come forward and make a brief presentation. We'll take public comment on each of the items, and if anyone would like to testify, we just ask that you please state your name and address, and note that testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker on each item. And with that, Casey, please call the first item.
Item 3 is approval of the minutes from the JPA meeting held January 6, 2023.
Second. Moved by Claire, second by Ward. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item is item 4, approval of the payment register for the January through March 2023 and review of the expenditure report as of March 31st, 2023.
Good afternoon. Lynn Heaton, City Finance Director and JPA Treasurer. I'll just cover, in terms of the payment register, I'll just cover some highlights and make myself available for any questions the board has. Per Resolution 22-11, as adopted by at your October 2022 meeting, we did make the first of the 3 installments of $1.5 million to the Lincoln Youth Complex for construction of the softball and baseball fields. We made a payment, and that was occurred in late March. We did pay during the period of December 2022 through February 2023 to District Energy Corporation, $563,000. $811,000 for those West Haymarket billings. Just for your information, 76.5% of that, or $621,000, was billed back to customers as typical pass-through. Yes.
We don't have any troubles ever collecting.
We have not experienced any difficulty. We do have new buildings coming online, of course, that we'll be working with them, but yeah, to my knowledge, no difficulties.
Yeah, thank you.
$563,000 to the City of Lincoln Parking Department for the November 2022 through February 2023 period for parking garage management. Just for your information, $1.2 million during that same time period was collected in parking revenue. $533,000 to Pinnacle Bank Arena for the following. Almost $105,000 for the December through February period for very typical arena repair, maintenance, and minor equipment, things such as annual generator maintenance, inspections, elevator inspections, IT maintenance, annual food and beverage equipment maintenance, and also HVAC and fire system inspections. $11,000 to the City Information Services for a computer replacement cycle for the arena. Pursuant to the CIP budget, a purchase of $16,456 for a commercial washer and dryer for the locker rooms, and then finally $250,000 to for the third quarter fiscal year 23 IMG Learfield sponsorships. Lastly, $150,000 for third quarter FY23 operating increment. $256,000 to the City Risk Management for annual insurance premiums. That's things such as general liability insurance, property insurance. And then next on the list, $186,000 to SMG for the FY22 operator incentive fees pursuant to the management agreement. So per that agreement, it's based on adjusted gross revenues versus a benchmark set in that agreement. It's also based on non-UNL event attendance and also non-UNL event client and patron surveys. $98,000 to the City of Lincoln for second quarter fiscal year 22 staff costs to support the JPA as adopted in the 22-23 budget. And then finally, due to the UNL women's basketball team making the WNIT, we did purchase $11,000 in basketball tickets for seats for the suites and loge holders.
Okay, are there any questions for Director Heaton about the payment register? Okay. Well, seeing none, thank you so much for that report. Was there anything else you wanted on this item
I
before
could
we?
maybe just share occupation tax revenues continue to perform strongly. Through the end of March, our year-to-date occupation taxes are $12.2 million. That's compared to the prior year of just about $11 million. So we're running a little more than 11% better than year-to-date, same time last year. So very good growth there. Another way to see that is typically through the end of March, we would collect about 56.7% of that year's annual collections. For the current fiscal year through March, we're at 60.9 of our budget. So again, just ahead of budget, doing quite well there. Another way that we often like to characterize the strength of the occupation taxes is cumulatively compared to the original projections. So our budget for this year of $20 million equates to the original projection for 2023 was just a little under 15 million. So our estimate for this year, our budget for this year of $20 million is equivalent to the year 2037 of the original projections. So just, again, another way to see that. Just like to share this each of our meetings, just so you have the benefit of seeing it visually. And the blue line is the original projections. Gray line is actuals through the end of FY22, and the yellow or orange line is our new projections based on actuals to date. And so performing much better than the original projections. And just one second item, the projected cash balances. And this is like a cash flow. We have estimates of revenues and estimates of expenses. Through 2022 is actual, and as you can see, expect to continue to be very strong. And certainly the expected through 2022 through 2025 planned all along. There's some capital improvement expenses that are projected for 2025. That's a good contributes to that, but still stronger than the required reserve.
So those figures take into account the payments for the baseball field?
Yes.
Does it take into account the revenue that we're expecting from baseball?
Yes, we've incorporated from the study that was done by the consultant that was employed by the Lincoln Youth Complex for, it does take into account those estimated revenues.
Then you also took into account on the expense side of things, some of these items that we approved or are going to be approving relative to maintenance and upkeep on the facility itself.
That's exactly right, yes. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Director Heaton? Is that the end of your presentation, or did you want to go over any?
That's all I have for you,
Okay,
so thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. At this time, we'd be happy to take any public comment on item 4. If anyone would like to testify on item 4.
Did you call for that? This isn't,
Yeah,
this,
You're more than welcome
speaker
to
is not.
testify.
Okay. Well, it looks like the arena continues to be a money pit. You have almost $1 million when you consider utilities and all of these repairs that you have to make. And sometime I would like for you to explain to me how there's an excess, or that they're making money on your list here, because you took $2 million from the government, COVID, and you also are giving them $600,000. So, doesn't add up. But I'll make an appointment with you and you can explain it to me.
Love to, thank you.
Where do they keep the 25 million or the 35 million that they have in excess? Last time you said that you had 35 million, I think.
The fund balance is being invested as part of pooled cash.
Oh, okay. It's not parked any place.
It is invested, yeah. It's in an account and being invested.
Okay. How much interest is it earning?
Well, the pooled cash, because the interest rate environment has been improving. I guess I don't have the most recent number, but we have been seeing improved returns on investment.
Okay. Is it over 35 million, or is it still at what you announced last time?
Yes.
It is. What is it now?
I think our fund balance today is, David? Oh, here it is, 42 million.
42. So you came up 7?
I'm not sure what the time period that I stated, but as of the end of March, it's 42 million.
The last meeting, which was 3 months ago, that was what you said. And it looks like the JPA lost money over the year as far as its balance is concerned, about 5 million, something like that. What is the outlook for making that up?
So as the line graph that I shared in the bar graph, we actually show that the balances improve quite greatly once we get through the expected time period of 2025, where we have a number of CIP projects we'll need to do for the arena.
Okay. I'd like a copy of that graph too.
Sure.
So, again, that's projection though, that's not
Yes.
actual facts. Have they been able to get any more businesses on the energy?
Canopy, what's the block for? Canopy Park, yes. Yeah, it just came online within the last month or two.
Okay, how many was that?
It's that entire building. I don't know how many units that building is.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. I'd like to know that.
1 minute.
Okay.
So I'll have a list for you, Lynn,
Okay.
when we can meet and get some clarification
Sure.
for the public.
Yeah, I'm glad to sit down.
Okay.
Okay, would anyone else like to testify on item 4? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on item 4, the payment. Second. All right, moved by Claire, second by Ward. Any discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Item 5 is WH 23-6, resolution to approve a contract with Strive AV for a new video wall system for the Pinnacle Bank Arena for a total amount not to exceed $120,000 and $120,000, 50, anyway, you know. Pursuant to bid number 22.
Whatever that number is.
I can't say that.
Chris Connolly, City Law Department. This is for a new video wall that's going to be put on just at the top of the escalators inside Pinnacle Bank Arena. And the units, the screens and monitors are up there now, going to be moved to the west wall on the other side over by the elevators. And so this was the low bid, and the good news is that Learfield will be paying for half of this. And so the JPA will pay the full $120,000, but we will get reimbursed for $60,000 back from Learfield. And we have ASM staff here if anyone has questions on the video wall itself or what's going to happen with it. But in any event, we think this is a good deal, and we would certainly ask for the board's approval.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Item 5. Okay. Seeing no testifiers, I entertain a motion on item 5.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, seconded by Claire. Any further discussion on the resolution WH23-6? All right, please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Item 6, WH23-7, resolution to approve Amendment 1 to the contract with Daktronics for a new scoreboard control system for the Pinnacle Bank Arena for an increase of $3,577 for a revised total amount not to exceed $128,352.
I see that.
Okay, so on this matter, this is we had just recently approved the contract for the new scoreboard system, control system, but there was an extra module that was discovered needed to be included in the package. And so this represents an amendment to include that module. And again, we have staff here that can explain the technical aspects of what the module is for and that sort of thing if you wish. But otherwise, again, staff would ask for approval on this.
All right, any questions for Chris? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to testify on item 6?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So, is this a totally new, or is it an addition to make it improved, or exactly what is it?
The system that was purchased several months ago was to replace the old system, which was getting old and was starting to break down a lot. And so we bought that system, but in the process of putting the system in, there was a module or a piece of the control system that staff decided, along with UNL, I believe, because they're involved with this, decided was necessary in order to properly run the system. And so it was determined we should go ahead and buy this extra module for this price.
They decided that?
Well,
Or
the
staff?
board is going to approve it, obviously, if they wish, but the board determined that it was necessary.
Okay, you've
Or, excuse me,
just-
I'm sorry, staff determined that it was necessary.
Yeah, okay. So the staff decides and that's it? Do you get another opinion?
Well, the staff are the experts, and so they, and working with UNL, because it's part of their system as well, because they use it. So then it becomes sort of a joint decision, and, yeah, they're the ones that do it. No, we don't want to spend money on extra people to come in and make a decision for us.
UNL and the staff make the
Correct.
decision.
Correct.
Who has the power to say no? The board?
Board, yep.
Do they get informed of it
Yes, they do,
in other meetings?
in other meetings.
Okay. How often is that?
I meet with each of them once a month, or just prior to each meeting, let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. Before this
Correct.
public meeting?
Correct.
Okay. Who is the director of the Pinnacle Bank Arena now?
There is no, well, when you
No
say
person.
director, you're talking about the general manager?
Yeah.
Yes, that's Mr. Tim Savona, who is here today.
Okay. Tim what?
Savona,
Savona? Okay. And he's an employee of the Global?
of ASM Global, yes.
Global,
Mhm.
okay. And so he would be in on this too?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He was being hired at about the time that this all came into play. But
Okay.
yes, he's aware of it.
Okay. Did you have any, or did the city have any say-so about his hiring, or you just let Global?
No, they were in good contact with us
Okay.
through me, and then I would let the board members know what was going on with the hiring process.
to you?
Right. We didn't get the final say, obviously, but we were notified of what was going on in the process, and they kept us up to date.
Okay. And I assume the board and you have no problems with this money that's handed out, huh?
With this money that's handed out, we're buying a product here.
Yeah. Okay. As I said, they have a lot of demands on money. But I guess as long as the JPA is functional and in the black, why they will continue to ask and say this is important and that's important.
1 minute.
What'd she say? Time out?
1 minute.
Oh, okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on item 6? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on item 6.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, seconded by Claire. Any further discussion on the resolution? Right, please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Item 7, WH 23-8, resolution to approve a right of entry agreement between the West Haymarket JPA and EDU to enter upon the property legally described as Lot 2 and outlots A and B, West Haymarket 4th Edition, to conduct environmental and geotechnical testing on the property.
This item is related to number 11 on the agenda. I'll just give a brief description of just the right of entry for now, and I'll get into the fuller discussion when we get to 11. But basically, what is generally referred to in the public as Block 5 development is ongoing at 7th and N. There is a lot of work being done between the Urban Development Department for the city and the JPA in selling its property down there to EDO to do this building project down there. And as part of the project, and as we typically do in any of these redevelopment agreements, we want to allow EDO, the developer in this case, access to the property to do certain things so that they can be certain that they know what the condition of the property is before they actually start building things. So part of it is taking soil samples and working with EPA to be mindful of what the issues are on the property and that sort of thing. And so this is really a fairly standard agreement that this board has approved in the past and would ask that it be approved this time. It will be tied in with a discussion later on number 11, and I'll talk a little more about the details of how it fits in with that.
Any questions for Chris?
So this is basically the start, the culmination of, I guess, culmination is the wrong word, but this is the start of the development of that area to the south, and it's one of our final pieces of property, and it will, in effect, close out the project once this is closed up.
Well, it's the beginning of the project, and this is their
Yeah, but I mean, the last of the...
It's the last of our pieces. Yes, this is the last piece that's actually for sale. Now, we still have Block 2. We'll see what ends up happening with Block 2 in several years. But this is the last piece that the JPA actually owns right now.
Yeah, so the process starts with making sure, from an environmental standpoint, making sure that we grant access to the property so that the proper cleanup, testing, and that can be taken care of.
And quite frankly, even if there weren't any environmental concerns, somebody would typically be asking for this because they want to go in and check not just the environmental conditions, but do geotechnical testing to make sure that the soil is capable of holding up a building and all that kind of thing. So, yes.
All right, thank you. Would anyone like to testify on item 7? All right, seeing none, we can enter a motion, or entertain a motion.
So moved.
Item 7.
Is 7 or 8?
Well, it's item 7 on our agenda, Resolution 23-8. Sorry, I
I'm
didn't mean
sorry,
to confuse. It's,
Sorry about
that
that.
is
Okay.
confusing, sorry.
All right, yeah.
Yep.
Was there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second.
Okay, moved by Ward, seconded by Claire. Any further discussion on the Resolution 23-8? All right, this is progress. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried, 3-0. Item 8, WH 23-9, resolution to approve a unit price contract with Commonwealth Electric Company to upgrade the remaining Pinnacle Bank Arena exterior light fixtures with LEDs for a total amount not to exceed $17,139 pursuant to bid number 23-055, to be paid out of the endowment fund.
Okay, so this is a project to upgrade the current lights that are in the plaza area and are on the other side of the pedestrian bridge that are referred to as the hockey stick lights. They have an angle to them. Upgrading these all to LEDs. And so their bid was let, Commonwealth Electric was low bid, and Caleb Swanson's here if there's other details about this project, but as was noted, this is going to be paid out of the endowment, so it won't be coming directly out of JPA funds. And I think technically, I think we pay these out of JPA funds and then the endowment reimburses. This may be the way it works.
All right. Any questions? Thank you, Chris. Would anyone like to testify on item 8, the resolution for the contract with Commonwealth Electric Company?
So, is this part of the project, an addition to the project we voted on several months ago? Or is this,
I'm not sure which project you're talking about.
well, there was a resolution, I can't remember exactly when, to put LED lights in around there.
I think this is, I don't recall another project outside. There's been a project to put inside the arena last year or the year before. We had done a project where we installed LED lights around like the basketball floor and that kind of thing. But this is not that project. This is
This isn't
different.
the same, huh?
Right.
Are there other LED lights that are gonna have to be replaced or put because you didn't put them in the first place?
They weren't available in 2013 when the building was being built.
Good afternoon, this is Caleb Swanson with Project Control. Does this work? I can show exactly where these lights are if the
Yes.
overhead functions. There we go. So there is a total of 66 different light fixtures that are being touched by this. The majority of them are, as Chris said, they're the hockey stick shaped fixtures. They start down here in the South R Street Plaza. They run up the pedestrian ramp between the arena and the post office up to where the pedestrian bridge starts. And then they continue again on the other side. They go down this trail down to the parking lot as well as down this stairway down to the parking lot. There was also a few years ago a project to upgrade the parking lot lights themselves to LEDs, so that's already been done. There is also a couple of lights that are underneath of the elevated deck on the north side of the arena, kind of down under that parking area. There's about 9 different just like security wall lights that those are also being upgraded to LEDs as part of this. And then working with SMG, I think these are about the last of the exterior lights that surround the arena and the associated parking areas that are being upgraded to LED. Not everything in the building is LED yet. I know that they are in the process of kind of switching those out as they go. As to Chris's point, 10 years ago, LED technology and costs are much different today than they were 10 years ago. So whereas an LED may not have made sense in 2012, 2013, it makes sense today as these 10, 11-year-old fixtures are starting to burn.
What did you have in there? Just regular lighting?
They're called metal halide lights. They're very commonly used in exterior lighting applications. A lot of old street lights used to use similar type lamps.
Were you here when this resolution was brought up to replace some LED or some regular lights with LEDs at the arena?
I don't remember specifically.
Okay.
I know
Is
that they have.
this the first project?
This is the first time these light fixtures will have been touched since they were installed back when the arena was open.
Okay. But you've replaced others?
There have been others that have been replaced over the course of years, yes. I don't have a full list of all of those today, but
Okay, I'd have to go back.
Yeah,
I remember it was quite an expense.
I know if you're referring to the parking lot, the festival lot, there were a lot more fixtures over there, if that's what you're referring to, or if it was an interior project, I can't speak to any of those off of memory.
So there've been several different sets of lights that have been replaced.
Yes, I can't speak to exactly what each set has been over the past years. We could go back and figure all of that out, but
1
yes.
minute.
I'll try to look it up. It ought to be on the web someplace.
Should all be in one of the agendas somewhere, yes.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions for me?
No, thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on this resolution? Seeing none, take a motion on 23-8.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Claire, second by Ward. Please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 23-9, my correction. Sorry.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item, number 9, WH 23-10, resolution to accept the financial audit and management letter and report from Forvis for the period ending August 31st, 2022.
Good afternoon again, Lynn Heaton, City Finance Director. Just want to take a moment to introduce Chris Linder of Forvis is with us today. Also, Abby Dobson as well from Forvis. We recently received the audit from Forvis. Essentially, it's a clean or unmodified opinion on the West Haymarket JPA financials, but I will turn it over to Chris, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about the work they did.
Good afternoon, board members. Chris Linder, partner with Forvis CPAs here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Good to see you all again. The name Forvis may be new, but the result of a merger of our former firm, BKD, with another firm on the East Coast. So a new name, but again, a consistent team that's able to serve the JPA this year. So happy to be with you. And just first want to start off by thanking the team here at City Finance for all the work they do for us to get ready and complete the audit. It is a thorough and intensive process of a lot of documents they need for us, a lot of questions and a lot of follow-ups and things that we require of them. So, getting through all of this takes a good amount of effort on their part as well. So I want to definitely express our appreciation for everything they do as part of the process. In your packets, you would have had 2 deliverables. The first, and mine's not the color-coded version, but has this kind of slash across it, is the audit report, the financial statements themselves. I'm going to focus a little bit of my time just in that from a high-level audit results standpoint. I'm not going to go into a lot of the numbers or their detailed disclosures, footnotes in there for the sake of time. However, if there are questions, obviously please ask, or even after today, if there's anything that you'd like to follow up on. Obviously, my office is here in Lincoln. I'd love to have that discussion or conversation if you have any other questions or concerns. Within that audit report, there are actually 2 opinions. And so the first opinion in the front is the true kind of financial statement opinion. That's as part of our audit process, we're engaged to audit the numbers, and we'll place an opinion to say, are these materially accurate? Are they in accordance with GAAP for an entity like the agency? So that was a clean or an unmodified opinion. So noting those numbers were materially accurate. We did not take exception to them. And then if you go to the back of the report, there's actually a separate opinion. And based on the agency structure, as kind of a combination of the city and the university, but then also a subdivision of the state, audit required to be performed in accordance with government auditing standards. And what that means is, as part of our audit process, we have to look at internal control over financial reporting, and if we have significant control issues, concerns, anything that rises to the level of a significant item that's a material weakness or a significant deficiency, you'd have to report those items, or we would have to report those items in this opinion as a finding. And so the opinion goes, or this opinion goes through the definition of those and what some of those items would be, however, does not include any of those items as part of our results. So noting the absence of those items within that letter kind of can be considered a clean opinion as well, noting the JPA did not have any issues from a control standpoint, whether that be from significant segregation of duties or if we had material errors in the financials when we got through our audit that we'd have to report as well. So really good news to report on both of those fronts. Within the document then as well, very lengthy and detailed document in terms of numbers and disclosures. On page 4 of the document is the management's discussion and analysis. And that's where, if you don't have, a lot of the time to get through the financial statements, right away, this is a more condensed version of them. The financials, the basic financials and notes are just on a single year, so they only present things as of August 31st, 2022, where this MD&A section gives you a few years of information. It touches on what are some of the changes year over year, so you have a little bit more analysis of what happened versus just here were things at year end. So it gives you a good feel of maybe what happened during the year, and then touches on a little bit of items forward-looking from a budget standpoint and from some of the general projections of the entity from the revenues in and then also the future debt service requirements. The basic financial statements themselves then start on page 8 and then go on to page 9. The only thing I'll note here is this presentation is a little unique to the agency just because of how it's structured. And so you've got several columns. In one of the columns is what we call the West Haymarket JPA Fund column, and that's things really more on the term of it's the modified accrual basis. It's a little closer to a cash basis. It doesn't have your long-term items like the the arena itself, the physical structure, but it also doesn't have the long-term debt. So you don't really have the full picture of everything on a full accrual, where it has conversions to go on the right, what that full accrual financial statement would look like, has all the assets, has all the liabilities, and shows you that information this is kind of a snapshot as of the end of the fiscal year, where the next page then is really kind of the income statement for the entity for the year. The same columns, so you're looking at that information a little again, what are really more things from almost a receipt and disbursement basis, and then the far right's on the accrual. So when you look at the debt service line item in that left column, that's really principal and interest debt service, where when you go to the right, that's just the interest portion. The principal is not something that's an expense in a normal financial statement. So just noting some of those differences are a little different, a little unique. You'll see that both, though, on that modified accrual, the fund balance for the year did increase a little over $5.3 million on the modified accrual basis. And then if you go to that full accrual column, the net position or the equity of the entity increased just a little under $5.5 million for the year, so showing increases in both of those categories. After that then follows into the footnotes, and that again I won't spend a lot of time in those. There's a variety of different items included in there. That as you're looking through the financial statements, if you have a question of something specific I want to see what this line item means, why we have it, those footnotes provide detail on it. That's where you could spend a little time to take a look. Nothing really significant or concerning in there. The only thing this year that was new for the agency and new for all governmental entities was a new lease standard that had to be evaluated and applied if it did have applicability. For the JPA, the only lease that met the criteria under the standard was the lease related to the Amtrak station down in the West Haymarket. And because of the nature of it and the payments, that was recorded as a lease receivable that will be kind of recognized over the term of that related agreement. There were other agreements that seem, kind of follow what you'd feel like leases, but because of what the criteria of the standard said, certain things are scoped out, premium seating and suite. What you say, well, those are leases because people are, leasing those out of that term. There are certain criteria that they have that the standard would say these don't meet what we want, to be called a lease, were not included there. So those payments as they're made continue to be revenue over the terms versus having to kind of project those out and record balances within the financials. So noting that those were evaluated, however, did not require inclusion within this new standard. So there is a little blip in that footnote for the new lease standard, which is GASB statement number 87. Moving on then to the communication letter, just a lot shorter form letter, just a few pages, has our logo there at the top. Really what this does is it touches on a few of the required communications under the audit standards from the auditor to governance. As you look at what were some of the risks items that we had to consider. Now these, I want to be careful to say these aren't concerning items to us. As part of our audit process, we don't provide absolute assurance. We have to look at things from a material standpoint. So we look at certain risks, and that's where we focus our audit time and our audit efforts. So we have a few of those bullet items listed there. Again, those are common for an entity like the JPA. As you move to the next page, it touches on a little bit of that new lease standard and what it required. So you have a little bit more background on that. As you move to that second page, any items that have some subjectiveness or the estimates, always important to note as you're reading those financial statements to know, what items weren't clear black and white, what took a little estimation on management's kind of in their evaluation process of the financial statements. And then on kind of honestly the last page, but page 3, there's financial statement disclosures. Just a few of them listed out to include. One we didn't include in that bullet point list to mention is the item related to the payments made to the Lincoln Youth Complex. That was listed as a subsequent event in the financial statements in a footnote, just because that approval did not take place before year end, and so it just having a significant impact or having an impact on the financials in the future. Just listing that there so the reader knows that was evaluated but not yet recorded in the financial statements as part of that. So with that. Nothing else. Like I mentioned, we did not have anything from a significant control issue standpoint that needed to be reported in that opinion. So, good results from that standpoint. Like I said, it's a huge undertaking for the city to have things ready for us to come in and do our audit process, in addition to all of the financials that they have to have ready for their own financial statement audit of the city as a whole and a lot of their other fund reports that are similar to what the JPA has. So, want to thank the team here at the city for their work, their efforts, their patience with us of coming through and being here on site for a good amount of time and bugging them with plenty of questions. So with that, I will open up to any questions the board may have.
Questions?
Are there best practices that we could employ to improve what we're doing for you or for the organization?
At the time, Tim, as we work through our audit process, if there are things, we normally will just have those conversations with management at the time. And so as we identify those, early on in our audit process and in prior years, we've maybe had a few more that, okay, here's some things to consider. So at this time, I don't know of any specifically that we maybe had this year that I could mention now, but obviously things that as we go through, if we do identify those, we just have those conversations. And management here has been great about taking those into consideration and applying what they could.
Okay. Thank you for your work.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
to
you all.
you and your team.
Yep, appreciate it.
Okay. Would anyone like to testify on this item, 23-10, a resolution to accept the financial audit and management letter and report?
As a point of clarification, this is BKD with a new name?
Yes, so last year we had just announced this, and it took effect June 1st of 2022. But BKD, the firm that I formerly was with, and then the firm that the JPA formerly had done work with, completed a merger with a firm based in Charlotte, North Carolina, DHG. And so together we created a new firm altogether that we wanted to rename it versus taking one of the firm's names or just combining all those letters together. So we created Forbes. So it is BKD from, if you think about, the office that you're getting served by and the team of people are still the folks that were from BKD. So myself, my colleague Abby Dobson, one of our directors as well.
Okay. And did you perform the audit in the same way?
So under the new firm, we did have some new methodologies. A little bit of our approach was a little different. However, within both firms, whether BKD or what DHG did or what we do now with Forvis still follows what the standards would require. And so there are certain things you have to do to meet the necessary requirements, what the JPA would have to do for us to place an opinion. So that standpoint would have been similar. I will tell you, hopefully the folks at City Finance felt that things seemed, again, kind of similar to what they've seen in the past.
Okay. And did you put a bid in? Was this out for bidding, the audit, or?
So for the August 31st, 2022 year end, which is the one I'm reporting on, was still under our previous contract that we had to, as part of a bid process a few years ago. So it was just within that contract, the same contract from then. So with the merger, all of the contracts that were applicable to BKD still were applicable under Forvis.
So you didn't put in a new bid under the new name?
We were not required to from our standpoint, or what the city policies would, or what the JPA's policies would dictate.
Okay. How often do you have to make a bid, or do they put a bid out for it? Do you know?
I don't know offhand. The last time would have been 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know the numbers, what the years would have been exactly, but it's been a few years since we have.
Okay.
And that's typical within the audit realm to have a multi-year contract, which helps both sides have a little bit of efficiencies gained in a multi-year contract.
Okay. So you have a multi-year contract?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know how many years it is?
I do not know offhand how many might be there are remaining.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And you still have the Lincoln office, but you have some North Carolina input, did you say?
Well, the firm that we completed the merger with, they were based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So
Okay.
BKD, the firm that I was previously with, we were actually based in Springfield, Missouri. We had offices in 40 states, 40 offices across 28 states. And now with our new firm, we have over 70 offices in about 30 states. So we've increased our geographical presence a little bit, but in terms of our clients, especially here in Nebraska, served by the same Lincoln and Omaha team. So our office in Lincoln just really changed the name on the door.
Okay. All right. So it's basically same old, huh?
It from a consistent team standpoint, obviously, but every year we have to look at things and we audit the numbers. It's not something where we looked at it last year. We have to audit the numbers every year. So that audit approach, although it may seem similar, is looking at the numbers and doing the procedures that we do every year, so that when we have our audit from another firm that comes and looks at our work papers, they'll also look at our detail to make sure that we've crossed our T's, we've dotted our I's, and we've done the work that we need to.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Claire, seconded by Ward. Any further discussion from the board on item 23-10? No? All right. Please call the roll, Casey.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item, WH 23-11, resolution to approve a real property agreement for transfers in West Haymarket 4th Edition with the City of Lincoln.
Mayor, for what it's worth, I fell into the same trap you did. I was calling this before I said it was going to be combined with number 11 on the agenda, which of course is not the right one. But it's 23-11 is the resolution number, so.
You're struggling with numbers today.
Yeah.
Sorry, my fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's this is sort of the main event with regard to what's on this agenda and is connected with number 7. This represents the property at 7th and N, and is generally referred to as the Block 5 project. And I'll kind of walk through this a little bit. The property that is outlined by the red line is what's called Lot 2, West Haymarket 4th Edition. That is currently owned by the JPA. And this is the last property that the JPA owns outside of like the arena and the festival space, things we're going to keep. The purple area to the north is actually city parkland. It was part of the plaza area that was developed later on. I'll describe that in a little more detail. And then B and D compose what used to be called the Jacobson property. Those two pieces combined were purchased by the JPA in 2019, and through subsequent transfers and movement of the properties, partially related to the Cotswold project, but also partially with the understanding that there was going to be a park there. The area on the north here was going to be a plaza area, and so this letter B piece of property was sort of cut off, and D was left in there along with C to comprise what is now Lot 2. So that's sort of a little bit of the backdrop. This black line represents where the building is going to go that Edo is planning to build. And then everything off to the west over here, this is going to be the South Haymarket Park area. Okay, so when the property was purchased in 2019, while we had in our possession a phase 1 and actually a phase 2 that had been done by WRK, from whom we had purchased the property. Those phase 1 and phase 2s did not qualify for what is now the most recent brownfield grant that EPA is offering to the city. And what we would like to do is be able to use those brownfield grants to help with whatever remediation is found in this area. And we expect that there probably is some level of remediation, but we're going to have to do some more work to determine exactly how much. And of course, this is related to all the remediation that was done in the rest of the West Haymarket area. So what EPA is telling us we have to do in order to make this work is we have to go through a series of transactions and do phase 1s in the process in order to structure this properly. And what they've said is that we need to reconstitute, if you will, the old Jacobson property, which means putting B and D back together. But before we do that, we actually have to get a phase 1 done on parcel B here, and then have the city, which owns that piece, convey it back to the JPA, which owns D, and then have both B and D get another phase 1, and then the city would, after it owns B, C, and D, well, the JPA would own B, C, and D at that point. All 3 of those parcels will then get transferred to the city, and then the city will then have A, B, C, and D in terms of working out its redevelopment agreement with Edo for this entire project. Very complex project. So let me sort of go over this again in a different way. So this is the sort of the summary of the transactions. So the first transaction is going to be the phase 1 on parcel B, no change in ownership. On number 2, the city conveys parcel B to the JPA, and that's on the agenda for the city. First reading is going to be Monday. But then as a result, the JPA will own B, C, and D on that drawing that I showed you. Then there's a phase 1 on B and D, which is the old Jacobson property. Again, no change in ownership as a result, but then the JPA conveys B, C, and D to the city, and the city will own them and then proceed forward with working out its agreement with Edo. And that's noted on here. One of the things in the agreement is that there's 2 things really to note in the agreement. One is that the city has the responsibility to start working from an appraisal, which is in the works, in terms of determining fair market value for the property. The second thing, though, is that the JPA will have final approval over the price, okay? Because there's not money changing hands immediately, but there will be a purchase price that will be paid to the city from Edo, and then will be funneled back to the JPA. So the JPA is going to get paid for this. Now, in terms of the market value on it now, of course, we don't know what it is, and it's complicated by the fact that parcel B here, in particular, is not its own lot right now, right? So it's difficult to determine what the value on that is. However, in looking at the assessor's records on this, we have that the lot 2, which is everything in red, are basically C and D here. The assessed value right now is $1,820,000. And there's 69,999 square feet, and so that breaks down to about $26 a square foot. And so if we were to extrapolate to B, which is just next to it, parcel B, we do now have a legal description for it, and it's 4,050 square feet. And if you multiply that by 26, it comes out to $105,306.50. Again, that would be an assessed value. It's not the fair market value, and obviously there'll be negotiations and discussions going forward. But at least this provides some indication of the value of the property. Again, this is a complex transaction, but we may be able, what we're trying to do is use upwards of $300,000 in EPA money to help with remediation on this property. We think this is a very good project going forward. The complications with regard to moving the parcels around so we can qualify for the money are worth it. So it will result in a complex transaction, but at this time, we would ask, staff does ask that this be approved.
I'll move.
All right. Good. All right. Thank you. Would anyone like to testify on this item?
So this is, so EADO is wanting to do development for apartments down, is this the same issue?
Well, they want to do a mixed-use building here, which is what the black line represents. That would be their building.
Okay, but it's on Canopy, next to Canopy, or is this another?
Well, if you're looking about Canopy Street, that Canopy Street is up here to the north. Canopy Park Development, which a related company built, is right across the street, but this is not Canopy by itself.
Okay. It's going to be mixed use, or have they
Correct.
said?
Yes, it's
Okay.
some form of mixed use. I don't know all the details on
Exactly
that.
what it is, okay. So, is this based on what was in the paper the other day, or is this another project?
You say, based on, you're talking about the reference to Block 5?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, this is the Block 5 project that was referenced in the paper.
It is, okay. That was in the paper.
That was in the
couple
paper,
days, yeah.
correct. As
Okay.
part of the South Haymarket Park
Okay.
announcement.
And did you say what the price is?
We do not have a price
Price.
established yet. That's
Okay.
still to be negotiated.
Okay. So this is just a request to approve the process, but you haven't finalized price or
Correct.
anything like that?
That is correct.
Okay. And that'll come out?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on Resolution 23-11.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, seconded by Claire. Any discussion amongst the
Well,
board?
I appreciate the explanation, and again, I think this is something that when we first started talking about it, it's a very complicated project and a lot of moving parts, and so the conveyance of a piece of property to the city in order to get the grant and what you're getting back, and I think it was important that you went through a real condensed version of it, as well as the dollar amount issue is also important, and that it'll get trued up at the end, because we got a fiduciary duty as board members, and so I think that's also very, very important. This project then would be the culmination of all the work that we've done up to now in developing what was formerly, train tracks. So it's really a beautiful development, and I'm happy to be involved, and thank you for your work and putting up with my thick head.
All right, any further discussion? Okay. Please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. The next meeting date will be held Friday, August 25th, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. here in council chambers.
Okay, we've reached the end of our agenda and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, seconded by Claire. Please call the roll.
Gaylor Baird?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.